I just had a thought, and I think this is truth. If you can't receive it right now, come back a year later and listen to it. If you have to wait 5 years, that's fine too. You better download it though and save it somewhere. So I think I know why people get heartbroken so much in relationships, the man or the woman. Because let's say there's a split for whatever reason. Who cares? There's a split for whatever reason. There was a quantum connection, right? And so those two were quantumly connected in time down here, right? And so when they're connected, they're growing together. They're the same. When they're disconnected, they're growing apart. So I think the reason deep down, your body knows this. You might not know it mentally, but your body, your soul, your spirit, whatever, you deep down you know that when there's a separation, this one's going to grow this way, this one's going to grow this way. And so the version of that person that you know now has to change. That version that you're connected to, once there's a separation, automatically that person goes away because they're going a different path. And none of us are the same. Just like a child, I think the reason it's so painful because excuse me, every time I go to a restaurant I cough. I don't know if it's the food or the soda. So you're quantum connected and you're on the same path. And so you're growing together. So here's a reason for separation, evidently. So now I'm just seeing the reason for the separation. I'm actually seeing now the reason for the separation. Because you're growing apart. You're growing apart instead of growing together. So when people start growing apart, they have their separate checking account, they have their separate friends, they have their separate job, they're separated in every area, even spiritually. They're separated in so many areas, they start to grow apart. So anyway, back to what I was saying originally. The reason it's painful, probably, in my perspective, the way I think, because it's all quantum connection. And so that person, as soon as there's a separation, boom, that person starts to change in their own path. That person that you knew doesn't really exist anymore. So the only way to keep that flame burning is be connected. And I think a lot of people subconsciously they know that person is going. So when there's a separation, right, and they split off, could be the man or the woman, they know that other person is going to go their own direction and become a different person. So they try to keep them tied in with court stuff, with kids, they try to keep some kind of connection there to keep them from develop to who they really are, on their own path. They're trying to pull them back like with a rope. No, don't go your own path. I don't want to be on the path that you're on, but I don't want you to go. You're growing spiritually, and you're growing mentally, psychologically, financially, skill set, whatever. You're growing in multiple ways. They decided not to grow with you on that path. They decided to stay stagnated. You're going to go a different path. And so that quantum connection, they're trying to hang on to. Well, I'll take you to court for child support. I'll take you to court for... They want to hang on to something. that doesn't exist anymore. They don't want that person to become that person that they're destined to be. They don't want to do the work, man or woman. They don't want to do the work to become who they're supposed to be. And so this person's growing. This person was growing with them. One of them decided to stagnate, or they both decided that something happened, or they're disagreeing or something. And this goes back to believers and unbelievers. It always happens. You could be in the same house, but eventually you're going to look at that unbeliever and you're going to say, they would rather be in a fake reality where you would rather be in the real reality. And what is the real reality? The real reality is God is changing you day by day. And if that quantum connection is severed, they're not growing together, they're growing apart. And so the reason it's painful is because you know that that person that you were in love with won't even exist next year. That person won't even exist, so you're in love with something that doesn't even exist anymore because there's a disconnect. They changed. I haven't approved the comment yet, but somebody said, you don't even sound as... Somebody says, are you the one I used to listen to 13 years ago or something, 12 years ago? I haven't approved it. It's sitting there. I haven't approved it yet because I'm just debating whether to approve it because you don't even sound the same. Yeah, everybody changes. That's why when somebody goes off to the military, the daughter or the son, and they go off to the military and they're gone for 4 years, they come back, they're a different person. And that person that you were in love with as your child, that you loved, not in love, but I guess you could say that, I don't know. That person you loved as a child, and it could be a spouse that goes off in the military, or it could be some man and woman, your girlfriend. You were in love with that girlfriend, and you went off in the military. You became a different person. You come back, she's different, you're different, and the two versions are totally different because you're gonna change. I don't care who it is. And notice how, like I'm watching some people right here. They're unhealthy people because they act like Jerry Springer, but they always hang out together, right? And I'm watching the unhealthy people, neither that are connected, neither one of them is growing. And when the one tries to grow, the other one pulls them back down, and it becomes a codependency enabling. It becomes a sick relationship where one's wanting to get financially free, the other one says no and blows money on the credit card, or one's trying to break free from some bloodline stuff, and the other one says no, and I always use the Abraham and Sarah. They left the Ur of the Chaldees. They left their land and started their new family, And a lot of times you see second marriages, they're still hanging on to something in the first marriage. And how can that work if they're hanging on to their old identity? How can this new identity ever develop or ever work? They never left the old identity. They never left their family. They never left their childhood view of life. They never left their selfishness. They never left the fake reality. And so this person here is moving to new reality, new levels, new understanding. And this person over here is not. Yeah, I just saw Jerry Springer go by, and they all love the Jerry Springer drama. And it's like, come on, people, wake up. But see, they're all enabling each other. 3 women with no man, neither one of them has a man, because no man's going to put up with their Jerry Springer coven that they got going on. And so they're not willing to leave and become a new creature with the man and get healthy because they enable each other's unhealthiness. So they all hang out together over there, and they leave their man, and so they think they're healthy, but they're all just enabling their toxic behavior. I watched it for 10 years. And it's like, these people are sick. Don't even know they're sick. So people are afraid to move into healthiness by themselves, where they might meet somebody that is on the same path of health, wealth, spiritual wealth, the inner renewal. They're afraid to move to the healthy path because they're so used to the sick path. They're used to the insanity. I mean, it's like a dopamine rush. They got to have that dopamine, and so they've got to go back to get that dopamine. But they're trying to be new, but they keep going back to the dopamine, and it's like they don't even know what's happening. I've seen it. I've seen it in neighborhoods. I've seen it in families. I've seen it on jobs. I've just seen it everywhere I look. I see it in churches. You're saying, come out of that. Come out of Babylon. Come out of Egypt. Walk in peace. Get out of all that. It's all just an addiction. It's just an addiction. They're addicted to the drama. They're addicted to the dopamine. They love the dopamine rush. That's all it is addiction. And then you notice, like, a child will get married. Okay, so you got this family, and they raise these children, and and it just repeats. Watch this. So the family has these 2 kids, or 3, or 1, or whatever. One kid gets married and goes off and does their own thing with their new spouse, healthy. The other kid keeps tied to the apron strings, the shirt tail, whatever. Keeps tied to this toxic family environment and never really connects with the husband, or it could be the man. He stays here and he never connects with the wife. And so this new union, this new quantum connection, is still tied to this familiar spirit, these old. So God, anytime there's a new connection, God is trying to birth in a new fractal, holographic ministry of some kind. But if one child gets healthy, they have their own path together. Another child marries, but it's not healthy because they never left the home, and this new path never was able to develop, and it's just confusion. And then I've seen it. It could be the man or the woman, but they will cause the trouble with this person, then go back and tell everybody else here that it was them, but they can't look at themselves. So that inner renewal, so that quantum growth. So eventually, if one's still tied to the family, one's still tied to some ex or something like that, and they don't create that new path, it's always going to break up. This person's going to go their way. This person's going to go that way, and they're going to start their new identity, and you won't even recognize them a year later. They might look the same, but they've done the inner work, and they've chose a different path. That's what's happening. And so I think the reason it's so sorrowful and so painful probably is because that person that they knew when they were connected is just a figment of their imagination. As time goes on, that person don't exist anymore because everybody's changing, whether they want to or not, whether they admit it or not, and even if they try to stay stagnate and they stay in there, they're going downhill. And what's going to happen, let's say these 3 over here that are all connected in their little queen bee, Jezebel, enabling codependency, familiar spirit, they're all connected, but they're all going to end up fighting each other. One is going to get so bad that they probably, things have to get so bad that you cry out to God and get saved, and then this 3 is going to become 2. They're going to recruit somebody else into their threefold toxic behavior, and so this other one's going to be moving away and moving their path, because it's just it's a cycle repeat. Toxic. Somebody gets so toxic, and they probably push them that way. The 1 out of 3, let's say there's 5. 1 out of 5, the 4 push this one down here to toxicity so bad they hit rock bottom, and then they get saved, and they leave that group, and they start a new path. And this group over here who's left behind say, "I can't believe they did this. They're just evil. They're blah 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 blah. They ain't nothing." And this person's growing up, and they're not growing up spiritually, and they're not even looking back. And they try to pull them in, and it's like, nah, this is my identity now. This is not me. This is me. Whether they go off by themselves or they go find some other people to hang out with that are healthy, they do not go back, because there's a separation. And that person, the reason these 4 are mad, it's because that person don't even exist anymore, but they're projecting an identity onto that person that's their identity, but that person is not even real. They're just mad at themselves because they're stuck in that stagnation. And this person here who's changed and became a new person, the reason they're attacking this person is because they're actually mad at themselves for being stuck. Hello? That's what's happening. So let's recap. Let's think about this. This group of people who's toxic, you leave. That toxic group is mad at the person who leaves, but that person don't even exist anymore, so they're really mad at themselves. It's a fake identity they're throwing on somebody. What's the next level? There's always deeper levels of understanding. They're bad-mouthing a person that don't even exist anymore because the past don't exist. They're trying to pull that person back down into that connection that they suffered loss, right? But instead of going inside and saying, why am I so upset? Why am I mad? They can't do that because they'd have to look in the mirror. And so maybe that's where the toxicity from childhood or narcissism comes from. They have no identity. So what is narcissism at its root? They're trying to get their identity out of other people. And when one leaves the group or one leaves the relationship, they don't have an identity. So they have to run to somebody else. As soon as they leave, they have no identity themselves. But they're still trying to hoover this one to pull this one back in. But this one's already left the toxic relationship, so they have to do another one and badmouth this one. And so it goes back to identity, and it goes back to stagnation. It's really wild stuff. And it goes back to not wanting to do the inner work. So the narcissist can point a finger, but the 3 pointing back, they can never look at that. Those have to be hidden. You're evil, you're evil. But these 3 pointing back can never say, hey, you're evil. So they have to blame and project something out there. And then they see this person that did leave and get healthy. They have to try to take that identity from them and apply it to themselves. But at the same time, project that they're evil because they left. And it's the only reason they were to rise up because of me. The only reason they could get healthy is because I got them healthy. I'm really the one healthy. This is the lie they're telling themselves, You understand? The heart's deceitfully wicked, who can know it? So this toxic group of people or this toxic person has an evil heart. And when somebody says, I can't do this anymore, I'm going this path, and you leave them behind, they have to attack. And they have to try to steal identity. They had to try to steal this person's identity. But the sad part is this person doesn't even exist anymore because they're moving from glory to glory, state to state, higher levels. The Bible says glory to glory. This person's moving from flesh to flesh, more evil. And so it kind of collapses into narcissistic mindset because they cannot admit that they were a part of the problem, that are still the problem, and all the new ones they pull into their little web, toxic web, they can't see themselves as a problem. The reason they pull these other people into that toxic web is because they have to blame somebody for their toxicity because they can never look at themselves. But they're still claiming identity from this person who left the toxic, but they still try to get their identity out of that person. It's wild stuff. If you really think about it, it's wild. So the pain of somebody's separation is you have to wake up to the fact that person don't even exist anymore. That person's not even real. It's like they evaporated off the planet. So it is like a death. Because even though they're still here, they're not, that person that they remember is no longer that person. And I had this happen. I was at work a couple years ago, and this lady from like 20 years ago showed up right there at the counter. And I was standing, the person that there was helping her, I was standing behind that person. And I was just saying, is that who I think it is? And it's like, you still stalking me? It's crazy. That's wild stuff. When the narcissist is targeting you, they're looking for any kind of traits that they would be able to zero in on to pull you into that toxic relationship. And if there's so many boundaries up and so much knowledge and wisdom, and you don't bite, the bait is thrown out there and you don't bite it, it's too much work for them, so they just go somewhere else. But once there's that quantum connection, the reason it's so painful, because that person who left, or you left, you become a different person. Even if you left, you know that you're going to be a different person next year, 5 years, whatever. You know that person that you used to know doesn't even exist anymore. And that's why there's if you study like datingasociopath.com, if you study the sociopath, psychopath, narcissist, what's the word I'm looking for, dynamics, if you study that, you'll always see they'll go away for 2 weeks, come back, go away for a month, come back, go away for 2 months, go back. And it's a progression. And eventually after 2 months, 2 or 3, they might even try back after 3 months. But you've changed so much. You've seen through the gaslighting, you've seen through the future faking, you've seen through the fake reality, that you've changed and you've walked a different path. And that song, I forget the name of the song, but it's Green Day has a song about it, walking a different path. It's no longer real. You've stepped onto your new path. They stepped onto their new path. Whether it's downward spiral or not, they're still a different person. Most likely it's going to be a downward spiral because there's a reason there's a split. Yeah, both can be guilty of it, but usually one out of the two will push to the next level. If both of them end up spiraling down into Hades, it really shocked me because usually God separates for a reason. There's some chemtrails. In 2 days, it'll rain. I've watched, when I see one chemtrail, I know 2 days later it's going to rain. And later today, in about 4 hours, that cloud will be spread all. This blue sky will be gone. You can already see they've already started it. There's one right there and one right there. This whole blue sky in 2 hours will be gone. The reason it's so painful is because you know that person won't even exist anymore. The person you used to know won't even exist, especially if they're doing the inner work. And with the internet like it is, everybody should be growing. And regardless of internet or not, God is going to force you to change. Every day changes you. Your daily experiences turn you into a different person. I had to work through that, but you get the gist of it. Make it, add to it, subtract to it, whatever. I'm not a relationship guru, but I do know that our identities change, and God will pull people out of your world who are not in jive with the future identity that He's called you to be. If they're not jiving with your identity and they're not meshing with that identity, it could be, let's say you were a pastor of a church or the piano player of a church or whatever, and you saw the church move into a fake identity that's not spiritually in tune with what you think it should be or where your path is. Or it could be the pastor, he's speaking the truth and nobody's receiving the truth. They'll just move to a new direction. They'll move to, let's say he's saying this congregation is not getting it or not wanting to hear the truth, so he'll move to this church. Or let's say there's a member in that church sitting on the pew and the preacher's starting to say stuff they'll move to this church. Now they might just not be hearing him and move to this church, and then they kind of go back, they always going to go back, what's he talking about now? Oh, and they grow, and then they might come back because they grew, but there's still that, they might join the church again. But that, in order for that person to come back to that church, if this church is right down the line, this person wasn't able to receive it yet, this person would have to grow a lot before they could come back. It would be hard probably, but before they came back, this person would have to really do some growing and before they came back in. Y'all know what I'm saying. Add, subtract, multiply, cut in half, unfold, unfurl, change, however you need to change the story to fit what you've experienced, it's going to come back because you know what I'm saying deep down is the truth. That person don't exist anymore because we're being changed from glory to glory to a new identity day by day. And if they're not tied together at the hip, they become different people and they go different paths. And this is why people say, I got my own checking account. I got my own life, but you're in the same house. That is a sure sign that it's slowly being destroyed. It's already divided. It's already divided because they're not on the same page. And you see it everywhere. I actually saw it many years ago. They're both dead, Clara and CL. They lived in that house. They went to the same church up here, but they were fighting like cats and dogs. They both claimed to be saved. She was greedy, and he was whatever. He sat on them steps right there, and he said, the Bible's not for today. But he had his own checking account. She had her own stuff. She had her kids. He had his kids, and the two shall never meet. And it's like they had a good outward show, but when you really got to know them and they got comfortable with you going there, let's say you sit down to eat with them, they were fighting like cats and dogs. But when they came out on Sunday morning and got in their car and went up the street here, they might even walk because it ain't that far. They had the perfect clothes on and the perfect smile. Hey, how are you? Good morning, praise God. And they were all fake though. They couldn't get along in the house, but they could get along walking down the street because it was outward show. Fake, fake, fake. Fake is all get out. The outside didn't match the inside. Nobody's perfect. I'm not saying we're all nobody's perfect. People are going to have a disagreement, or you don't get me wrong, but we're talking about a pattern of toxicity. If you're not healthy by yourself, how can you be healthy with somebody else? If that person's not healthy by themselves, how can they be healthy with you? And they might say, well, I need them to make me healthy. They need me to be healthy. I mean, you could tell yourself a bunch of lies and a bunch of, maybe they will help you to get healthy. Maybe it is a process, part of it. But at the same time, individually, you got to go to God to get healthy, because nobody can be Jesus in your life. Because when they do walk in the flesh and mess up, then you have a tendency to go right back down to the flesh mind, you know. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. I think the reason people get so bent out of shape when there's a split, because that person doesn't exist anymore, because they have to change every day.